Hey guys, Alex from BoardGameCo over here, and it's time for another Throwback Thursday, another Kickstarter, another one that, yes, I did back, and I am super excited about. Chronicles of Drunagor is a game that, for me, came out of nowhere. It wasn't on my radar at all. It is a dungeon crawling game with seemingly cool miniatures. We'll get back to that later. But it's one that did enough things differently. It did enough things in an interesting way that intrigued me, that pulled me in, that gave me a reason to consider this one, as opposed to, every dungeon crawler out there. There are things that it did well, or seemingly well, that I liked, that I was intrigued by. There were things that it did in a new way that had me curious and had me, wanting to know more, wanting to see what the gameplay was about. And this was, honestly, it was an incredibly well-produced game, considering I believe this was their first game. I have to find Creative Game Studio. I believe this was their first game that they did. I can't recall over here. But anyways, there are Creative Game Studio. I just realized that's CGS, Czech Game Studio or whatever. Anyways, Chronicles of Drunagor is one that I am very interested in. It's one that I have an all-in pledge on, and it's one that I am super excited to have it eventually hit whenever that will be. With that said, let's go into the actual Kickstarter. Let's go into what the gameplay is about, why was I pulled in, what's going on here, what are the pledge levels, what are the costs, and yes, there is an open late pledge. I don't recall for exactly how much longer, but there is an open late pledge. You should definitely check that out and see whether it's, a game that's for you or not. And actually, that late pledge, I believe, is open till July 31st. So you have just a little over a week to jump in, to back this game, to see whether it's something you are interested in. And so, with that said, let's go into it. So, what does this game do? Now, because of the way this Kickstarter page is drafted, I'm actually going to have to scroll all the way to the bottom to show you how the gameplay actually works, because that was the last thing they decided to show. And that is the how to play the game all the way at the bottom of the Kickstarter page. Now, like I said, at its core, this is a dungeon crawler. This is a game where you have a hero or a set of heroes. There is a solo mode, and true solo, meaning one player playing as one character, or you can be one player playing as multiple characters, controlling a few people, or you can just play it as a group. It plays up to 5, although without having ever played it, I just don't imagine that 5 would be an ideal play experience. Games like this tend to thrive at the 2 to 4 mark, and even 4 can be pushing it. But again, keep in mind, that is my completely made up feedback about a game that I have never played, purely based on the genre in general. Not on the specific game, but on the genre in general. So, with that said though, in terms of what you can do, play it solo, play it co-op, play it with your friend, your spouse, by yourself, with a group, whatever you want to do. This game is a dungeon crawler where you are exploring a dungeon, defeating monsters, upgrading your character. You can play it in single shot mode, you can also play it in campaign mode, but from what I've heard from people who have played the game, campaign mode is the way to go. So in terms of single shot might be a slightly subpar experience, good for introducing people to the game, good for if you just don't want to commit, but possibly at the cost of the upgrading and the depth that your character will have, because your character will upgrade across the course of many games, and you can see that over here on this board over here. Over here you have the actions. There are multiple classes in this game. Some of those classes will be unlocked through the options, through the optional buys, and we'll get back to that. But in terms of the classes, there are a variety of classes. Each class will have its own player board. Each class does have multiple characters to have a different experience within that class, and that you're going to be putting action cubes on these spots over here that you can see. And once your action cubes are done, you will effectively refresh, exhausting some spots, limiting your options, limiting your abilities, and throughout the course of the game, you'll be upgrading your character, unlocking more skills and abilities, as you can see on this tree on the left, although there are actually a few different graphic design options in terms of the way they handle that. This was the initial player board, but we'll come back to that. There's another option. From there, as you go through the dungeon, you're going to have these doors. You see these doors over here, these little door cards? These door cards represent the layout of what that next dungeon area will look at, where monsters will spawn, what's going to be in there, and there are going to be different doors. I don't know for everyone, but for at least a bunch of the dungeons, there'll be different door options, so you never really know 100% what you're about to face in the next room. Obviously, to a certain extent, you can eventually memorize what the options are and limit it down to the 2 or 3 or whatever it is, but I imagine most of us aren't playing our games enough for that to be a real problem, and this probably will deliver that feeling and experience of the unknown to a degree that I think I'll be happy with. And if you're burning through this game a ton, maybe you won't be, but at least you're burning through this game a ton, so who cares? In terms of what those doors do, you're going to open a door when you get to that dungeon. You're going to see what spawns in that room, and you'll have a better idea now of what you're facing. So that's already one thing it does differently. The other thing you can already see as well is it does differently over here, that it has 3D terrain. And it's not purely a gimmick. Not that I necessarily mind when it's purely a gimmick, as long as it looks nice and doesn't overly affect setup, which is a concern. Whenever you have 3D stuff, whenever you have extras, if it negatively affects the setup time, then you have a game that looks better but doesn't hit the table as much, which can be a problem. Overall, it looks like these are pretty simple to assemble. It looks like there's a bunch of game trays. You just pull out the box, set it up. It doesn't look like it would be that hard or like it would negatively affect setup too much, but make that determination and keep it in mind. A beautiful game that doesn't hit the table is a waste of time, unfortunately. And those 3D components, like I said, it's not purely a gimmick. It will affect things such as combat. It will affect things such as being able to push people down into water, into spike pits or whatnot. So there is a gameplay aspect to this terrain, which is nice. I like when they actually take advantage of the gimmick, when they make it something that's not purely a gimmick. I mean, similar to Hate. Hate had 3D terrain, and it really affected the gameplay. It really mattered in terms of what that 3D terrain did. Now from there, we have, like I said already, you're going to be putting these action cubes on various spots on your board, both offensively and defensively. There's going to be passive abilities that are always in play. There's the little P you can see over here. There's going to be actions that you're going to be able to trigger. There's going to be defensive abilities that you can react to, not on your turn. You can react to move, to block, to do different things. So you're going to be utilizing those action cubes. Once they are all done, you're going to have to lock action spots. As you can see in this GIF over here, I know, GIF, it's all good. And you can see over here, you're going to be able to lock, you're going to have to lock action spots, which will eventually, exhaust your character and corrupt your character. And there are corrupted characters as well. There's options for how you play as corrupted characters or how that affects gameplay. From there, in adventure mode, whenever you kill a monster, the whole party is going to be able to level up. So everyone, this is collectively, this is where 5 players not necessarily as bad, because you're not necessarily splitting and diversifying the upgrades, because everyone benefits when you kill a monster. You're all going to be able to either level up a class ability, level up a hero ability, gain a morale bonus of your choice, focus, shield, heal, or cleanse. So everyone will benefit when a monster is killed, and that involves leveling up. And leveling up, if you've watched my videos, leveling up is... I love leveling up. I love powers. I love abilities. I love branching paths in terms of the character arc or whatnot. I don't necessarily like it as much in Euro games. It has to be precisely, finely tuned in a Euro game. But in a dungeon crawler, it's just fun. You just get abilities and you get to do stuff, and you get a new ability that you can do this and cast a fireball and shoot a splitting arrow that hits 3 monsters. There's fun things to do. These games make you feel powerful, and that is fun. That's my jam. I love abilities. I mean, again, I love hardcore Euros where every move matters too. I just like a lot of different game styles. I like hidden, trader elements in games. Now, there's lots of different things I like, but within the Ameritrash genre, abilities are my jam. Blood Rage, Kemet, Cthulhu Death May Die, it's all fun. In terms of that, from there, it's also going to have an interaction point storybook that you're going to be able to see various spots on the board and pick, which elements of that story you want to interact with. Honestly, for me, does nothing for me at all. But I know lots of people do like that. For me, this is not my kind of thing. I'm in it for everything else, but that's something else in terms of if that interests you. And lastly, the last thing it has a darkness mechanism where, polyomino Tetrisy tiles are going to be drawn and spreading darkness throughout the dungeon, possibly getting your hero. That is a high-level overview of the game. John Gets Games did a great video of the game. Jeremy Howard, it's Jambalaya. Jeremy Howard with Man vs. Meeple did a solo play that you should watch. In fact, if you've ever wanted to have Jeremy Howard in your home, if you've ever wanted that, then all you got to do is head over here where you can see Jaheen, who is Jeremy Howard. So, I think he hinted at it, and it looks a bit like him, so I'm going to say that Jaheen is Jeremy Howard. If you ever wanted Jeremy Howard on your table fighting monsters along with you, now is your opportunity. Guys, if you ever want to, load me into a dungeon crawler, let me know. In any case, from there, what are the pledge levels? And let's go into what you get for those pledge levels. So, we have the retailer pledge, which is, the $5 pledge grants you access to the pledge manager. We have a $9 hero pledge with $99 hero pledge, which is the main focus of this game. And honestly, there is a decent value for the punch in this. If you are interested in the game and don't want to overcommit, this is a good value, because here is what you'll get for that $99 pledge. Over here, All this stuff over here, what you get, AOD Hero Pledge, is $99 for everything in this box over here. Game trays, geometric tiles, miniatures, tons and tons and tons of stuff, dice, tokens, all these things. And then from there, I don't know if it's dice. Is that dice? No, it's wooden cubes, not dice. Sorry about that. There are dice in this game, to be clear. There are dice rolling. There's different kinds of damage. There's direct damage, which you don't have to roll for, and then there's damage where you do have to roll for. So if you like different styles of gameplay, different styles of luck versus precision, they do have both in terms of that, in terms of what your options are. And then here are all the unlocked stretch goals in that $99 pledge. And pay attention to that Kickstarter exclusive thing, because as always, that is what matters when making these determinations of value. When determining whether you should back it now, wait for retail, wait for the reviews to come out. When you're determining all of that, the Kickstarter exclusive stuff matters a lot. And there's a bunch of Kickstarter exclusive stuff. You can see we have 6 more heroes. In addition to the 5 heroes you get in the base game, you have 6 more heroes already from the, I believe it's only 6 more heroes from the Kickstarter exclusives in that pledge level. There's more if you get additional content. We have a bunch more. This might be more heroes? It might be more heroes. I might be wrong. It might be more than 6 heroes. A bunch more monsters, a bunch more tiles, a bunch more everything, really. If you can see over here, there's new adventures, new PvP battlefield rules, new commander twins, equipment cards, treasure chests, 3D treasure chests. A lot of stuff going on in this pledge. If you are on the fence, that $99 pledge will give you a lot of content to play with. You don't have to worry about getting anything else. But if you do want to get, oh, and I believe the Undead King's Phylacterium box, he's a corrupted hero and monster, so this is both. This is also in that $99 pledge, I believe. I'm pretty sure with that. And then from there we have, this is a True Solo, Black Friday. Let's skip down to the $169 AOD expansions bundle. And that, if we can skip through this stuff, oh, here's some cool hero stuff. Let's look at these. And we'll come back to those miniatures shortly, because there was a little bit of drama about the miniatures. In fact, this campaign had a bit of drama about a few things. It had drama about, let's talk about the miniatures right now. The miniatures, they initially released an update where they showed this picture, and as you can imagine, this was after the campaign finished. As you can imagine, people saw this picture and started thinking to themselves, what the hell did I just spend my money on? Because these do not look inspiring. And they released an update saying, hey guys, we're using the same factory as Awakened Realms. Don't worry, the minis are going to be better. And on the one hand, that was, I guess, reassuring. On the other hand, I wonder, at least for myself, I think that there's a huge degree of lack of judgment in releasing a picture like this without giant disclaimers saying, hey guys, this is not what the miniatures are going to look like. Or honestly, just don't release a picture like this. And that lack of judgment of being on the same page makes me wonder what they actually have in mind for the final miniatures. So that's on the one hand. So big negative there. On the other hand, they have since released another miniature, which this is a resin copy. So just be clear, resin copy, not final production plastic. And this honestly looks pretty similar to over here. This is Maya over here. Looks pretty decent. Looks, obviously this has the 3D whatever gleam to it that makes it look cooler, but Maya looks pretty solid. It is resin though. So hopefully the combination of them using the same factory that produces Awakened Realms, one of the more commonly used factories for high quality miniature games, hopefully the combination of that plus the resin, and we're not looking at this stuff for our final production quality, because that would be a huge bummer. The flip side is if the game is good enough, I don't really care. I love minis, I love Sheen, but if the game is good enough, I don't care. And a great example of this is Arena the Contest, that had kind of crappy miniatures in the first Kickstarter, but a great game, and I was fine with that. And in their second Kickstarter, they took the opportunity to update everything, obviously at a big cost to themselves, but it kind of needed to be done to inspire confidence, to get people to jump all in on a huge other Kickstarter. That might happen here, but hopefully not. Hopefully releasing this picture was a good move in the sense that any gaps in the expectations between what they expected and what the backers expected, hopefully that was able to be resolved with the amount of backlash this photo got. And when I say backlash, I didn't see anything particularly toxic. I just saw a lot of concern and them responding to that concern and hopefully addressing it. So over here again, we have those miniatures. We're heading slowly. We have Jaheen. Hey Jeremy, good to see you. We have the we have the 169 pledge I'm trying to slowly make my way towards. More and more miniatures, lots of nice revolving little GIFs, whatever. I gotta stop. I gotta commit. I'm saying GIFs. It's over. I know that somebody in the comments down below says GIF. I am saying GIF. We are just dealing with it and moving on. I can't do this in every video. We have the game trays inserts, the dungeon crawler game trays insert that are going to be the support structure for those tiles you're laying down. They also have that as an optional buy to get more. We have the 32-page interaction book. We have the Age of Darkness expansion bundle, which I finally found over here, and that's $169, and that includes both of the big box expansions, and this stuff does look cool. Let's go through it. And then we have the Age of Darkness being the story, all-in pledge. This is if you wanted to actually be a character in the story. You can see an example over here of how they did that. Take a photo, slowly add a prop, draw them into the photo somewhere, into the storybook. So that's cool. If you're into that, totally cool. From there, we have the miniature scale comparison. Good to note over here because we have some pretty big stuff as well as the standard size heroes. This dragon does look cool. I'll say it. It looks kind of big. Not Joan of Arc dragon cool, but I never played with it. I just had it sitting on my shelf. I'd rather a cool one that I actually play with. And from here are the add-ons. These are the 2 add-ons that are in that $169 pledge, and they look cool. Not just because of the miniatures and the not because of the bosses and the story that they introduce, but rather because of the classes. I like the classes in this game because classes gives me more options of how to just go through the campaign entirely new, entirely different, and re-experience it. And this particular Rise of the Undead Dragon expansion comes with 2 paladin heroes. You can see the examples of them here. They look great. Their classes are different, so it's a new way of experiencing the game. We have that Undead Dragon we just talked about. Again, cool sculpt. You know, the base is very square. I'll say it's a very, very square base. I'm not used to seeing that. It doesn't actually bother me, just it's different looking. And then from there, we have 4 miniatures for the monsters, and we have the Desert of Hellscar expansion. The Desert of Hellscar expansion, another $39 or part of that $169 pledge, and this introduces the Barbarian class. Again, 2 new heroes, 2 new barbarians, another cool square base. Again, I have no problem with the square. I don't know why I'm focusing on this at all. But another sandworm cool thing, the Dark Worm. These stuff are cool. Lots of new ways to experience the game, both from the bosses and the heroes. And this, the hero add-on Handuriel, was this was the early backer day 1 pledge, or day 3, I don't know, but early backer pledge, but you can get it as well for $9. I know I hate paying for things that were early bird pledges, but what are your options at this point? I mean, ultimately you can skip it, or you can decide I'm done with the whole campaign because I don't want to be any FOMO and missing out, or you can just suck it up and pay $9, and it is what it is. Speaking of which, now's a good time to note that with the exception of let's go to the late pledge details. With the exception of the $99 pledge over here, we have a $99 hero pledge, and that is the same price as the campaign. Everything else is slightly more expensive. That $179 over here, what was $169 in the actual campaign, is $179 over here. What was $259 Darkness deal, we have the $295. So the $295 all-in deal, which is the $269 over here, is $295 in the Pledge Manager. So you are going to see slightly increased prices in the Pledge Manager, except for that basic pledge. And what else do we have? We have these boards over here. So this was a big deal. Okay, this was a huge deal in the campaign, which is, if you recall, let me see if I could find it over here. If you recall, we have these beautiful looking player boards somewhere when I scroll up. Where are they? Nope, can't find them. Here we go. Okay. They are somewhere here. I will definitely find them and totally not just awkwardly talk through this. There we go. See these boards over here? These boards are how they track the skills initially. These boards over here. And then they changed that, and I have to find back where they changed it. And then they changed it during the campaign to this over here. They instead track this with this little setup over here that might look more functional. It might be more functional, but it's less pretty. And pretty versus functional is always a tough balance. In this case, they ultimately, in the end, what they ended up doing is, because there was a lot of pushback against that, I was definitely one of the people who pushed back. I loved the original design, and then they just swapped it with this, and that was after Undead Viking released a whole video about how he was so happy they just didn't overload the system with cards, and then they're like, here's more cards. And so this is one where in the end they caved and gave both options to the backers. In the end, they gave you both the original design as well as the hybrid design over here. Now, it's worth noting there are functionality differences as well, because this new design allowed for a different class play where you weren't locked down to a single class, which a lot of people, again myself included, had concerns that would just, if you could just take skills from any class, then what's the point of the classes? Just grab the best skills. It wouldn't feel as much like you had to optimize within a set strict confine of what you got. And one of the things they did is, for those player boards, they released dual class player boards where you can kind of switch and have half of a barbarian, half of a paladin, or whatever. They didn't do it for everything, so they had certain configurations, but in the end they gave players both options, so whichever way you want to play is the way you can play. And I don't think this is a problem in the sense that I'm always wary when games give you options like, here are 15 modules, choose how you want to play. I'm like, no, tell me how I should play, and then slowly introduce things past that. I hate it when a game starts off with a rule book and you read the rules and it's like, and here are 14 variations. No, I tell me what the ideal gameplay experience is, and I will modify out from there. But in this case, it's just 2 options, not particularly significant in the way it will affect your gameplay experience. I mean, it might be significant, don't take me too strongly there, but it's enough that I can manage and I'm intrigued by. Additionally, that brings us to this add-on, which is the Hero Trays bundle. These Hero Trays, even though they added the card system, they changed that up. The actual Hero Tray you have to buy, and those were $6 each or $25. This one's tricky because I do recommend just getting the full pack, even though I don't think this will be a good game with 5 players at all. But that extra, this is the cost of 4 of them, and so 4 players you might play with. And then do you really want to be one shy when it comes time to possibly trade or sell it on? And you have to say, hey guys, I committed, whoever you're selling it to, you have to tell them that I committed to less than the full player count. So I do recommend getting the full pack once you're getting at least 3. If you're getting 2, fine. If you're getting 1 for yourself for solo mode, fine. But if you're getting at least 3, I recommend just getting the full pack. And then finally, they have more create your own dungeon tiles. This is nothing to do with gameplay. This is literally just to create your own dungeon. You don't need these for any scenarios. This is completely extra. I did not get this. It's the only thing I didn't get, I think. And we have the Runes of Lucanor. I can't say words. The Runes of Lucanor Adventure Pack, which is more adventure stuff. Has a cool ship thing going on. Looks intriguing. We have the Shadow World Adventure Pack. Again, looks intriguing. We have the Monster Pack. More monsters to fight with. And they did cover these in an update, I believe, over here. Here are some of the monsters you'll see, and again, these are obviously 3D sculpts of the monsters that in that monster pack. So they sculpted them after the campaign, and they showed them in an update after the campaign. That's a lot of information. A lot. Oh, wait, sorry, I'm not done yet. The Darkness dice set. I love marbled dice. I have talked about this in the past. I am a huge sucker for marbled dice. I hate paying extra for dice in games, but I love marbled dice. That's always a toss-up. In this case, I went ahead and got these marbled dice, $12 for 5 D20. You can use them for any game you want, and these look cool. Hopefully they'll actually be cool. Then what is unique about Age of Darkness? Age of Darkness and the stuff I already talked about, there's 3D terrain, there's doors opening, there are upgradable player, the action cube system does look pretty cool, looks pretty interesting, they have the darkness mechanics, they have the storyboard, lots and lots and lots of stuff, and scrolling up to the top for one last thing before I talk about the value, which is, this is actually part of talking about the value, why back now? Because of all the Kickstarter exclusive edition, doubles the content for free. Free is relative, but hey, it is what it is. So, lots of information. Should you back it? Yes, I already told you I'm backing it, although sometimes I back things that I don't think you should back. Ultimately, this game is one that I think will pretty strongly hold its value, at least initially. Now, this is something I've talked about in the past, which is there's never a guarantee in life, especially when you're dealing with a new publisher who doesn't have the proven track record of releasing great games that people like or that hold their value. Ultimately, you're going to be gambling on the fact that these are a lot of cool miniatures, a cool dungeon crawling experience, a game that has done pretty decently until now. And so the question, meaning in terms of the campaign, in terms of how well it managed to hype people up until now, it did pretty decently for the first time campaign, bringing over $500,000, over $600,000 once you factor in the pledge manager, the late pledges. And it's a game that it looks cool, and it's a genre that people like. This is a game that I'm going to stand by my usual thing of saying, when you get it, try to get it to the table as soon as possible. Because on the off chance this sucks, you still have that usual window of 1 month to 3 months, whatever it is, where you will be able to offload it for what you paid, plus your shipping, and get all your money back, even if you don't like it. And that will hold true even if the game is terrible. And I don't think the game will be terrible. This is going to be very similar to my Throwback Thursday for Alter Quest, where it's going to be a very similar thing. There's enough here to believe that the game will be good to great. And that's relevant because most of these giant ones don't totally tank. Most of the ones that do well don't totally tank. I think Arkane Studios is probably a classic example of ones that have really tanked in value, but for the most part, they usually don't tank in value if the game is at least good, because there's always going to be somebody pulled in by this particular theme. There's always going to be somebody, years after it comes out, who's like, I want to get my hands on Chronicles of Drunagor, and it's a good game, it's rated a 7.2, and people seem to like it, even though they don't love it. There'll always be someone willing to pay for that copy, and these miniature-heavy games tend to hold their value a little better than standard games, just because of the bling, assuming the bling is actually blinged and not, garbage miniatures. So overall, I think this will hold its value either way. But on the off chance it will tank, play it as soon as possible to be like, holy hell, this is a terrible system and I need to get rid of it because I can't believe anyone would have played this. Now again, watch the Jeremy Howard Man vs. Meeple, the solo playthrough, because he seems to be having fun. He comments in the beginning about how he's played it in the past, meaning he's like, oh, I'm going to try a new character today. I've played a bunch of whatever. So this is something where it's not something he's forcing himself to get that token play out the door. It seems to be having a good time, and he's been in communication with the creators for a while. He's a character in this game. Those details matter. That kind of trying to get an impression of how things play out matters. This game, in my opinion, will vary between good and great. I can't tell you it's going to be great. I haven't played it. Overall, the overall critical consensus has not been able to come out, but good is often good enough. I think I'm slightly wrong, by the way. Designed by Daniel Elves. Give me 1 second. Yeah, sorry, I took a quick pause there to check. Yeah, they did the Towers of Arcanos, okay? So they did have a previous Kickstarter. This is not their first Kickstarter, and it's actually relevant. The Towers of Arcanos does not hold its value, but it's also not a giant miniature crawling thing. Doesn't change my opinion at all, but worth correcting before I tell you something that's not true. In any case, so this is a game that I believe will hold its value for sure initially and continued over time if it proves to be a great game. If you're interested in the game and you're unsure, back it at the $99 pledge. It's a quick, simple pledge. It's not, even once you factor in shipping, it's going to be $120, $130. You'll be able to get that much back. Look at this game. Look at the sheer amount of content you get. This is basically Descent Core plus like 3 expansions in that base pledge. This is a Kickstarter that's giving you that return on value. This is a Kickstarter that's saying, hey, there's less margins because we don't have to pay for distributors and retailers, whatever, and we're going to build that into the base game. Look, they have game trays, they have miniatures galore, they have a storybook, they have tons and tons of stuff for $99. That is not bad at all, and it's one that I believe you will have an easy time getting your money back. In terms of the extras and the add-ons, a little harder, not necessarily hard at all, it depends on how the game does, but certainly a little bit more of a risk because the margins on those expansions are usually lower, meaning the creator usually makes more money on the expansions, but also they have smaller print runs and they have to factor that in. So overall, it's a little harder to get your value back there, especially if the game doesn't do well, but if you're personally interested, or if the game does well, that will definitely hold its value. That's quite a long video, quite a long Throwback Thursday. There's just a lot to go over in some of these campaigns. This is one that I am super interested in, was super interested in, have continued to be super interested in. I do have slight concerns about the miniature quality. I have obvious concerns as to not whether it'll be a good game, but good isn't good enough. I mean, I don't keep games for myself that aren't amazing. If a game is good but has too many flaws, then I'd rather just play insert dungeon crawler name here, insert Too Many Bones, insert Cthulhu Death May Die, Black Plague. If I would rather play a different game and I see no reason to play this game, then I will get rid of my copy. But I am also pretty confident that somebody else will snatch it up, and so I'm not too worried. That's it. That's my opinion, my 2 cents. This is Alex Radcliffe from BoardGameCo. If you enjoyed this video, again, I do a Throwback Thursday every single Thursday at this point, at least until I run out of Kickstarters that I didn't cover the first time round. But I do a Throwback Thursday every Thursday. If there are any Kickstarters I haven't yet covered, comment down below, especially if there are late pledges open. I give those ones priority. I have Oathsworn coming up. I have Conan coming up. There are a bunch of other ones that are going to be coming up. The Great Wall I'll be doing at some point. In general, I give priority to late pledges closing soon so that people have an opportunity to actually go out and back it if they want to, and I apologize to your wallet, to yourself, to your spouse, to whoever is negatively affected by your backing decisions. Until next time, I am Alex from BoardGameCo. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you later.